Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of 4Fusion Friday. It is our September show. Happy September, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on this Friday morning. We've got a very special guest here with us on the Zoom from Kick the Cat, the great Chicago fusion prog band, guitarist, founding member Chris Siebold. Chris, welcome to the band. How are you today?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Thanks for joining us. We actually we've been wanting to get you on the show for a while, and we're happy that you're here today for this really special one. And let me introduce the rest of the crew here. Of course, the two kind of creators of this show, George Lamie, also from Chicago, and my fellow New Yorker, Eric Porter. What's up, gentlemen?
What's going on?
How's it going?
It's going well. We just barely getting over in the prog seat, and here we are on 4Fusion Friday. So that's the way to do it. So as always, these shows are kind of like a three-part episode. So we go through first George's kind of new release schedule, right? Then we go for the 4 albums that are in question for today that we're going to kind of rank, and then we'll talk about George's pick from last month that we've been kind of listening to and digesting. So with that, I will turn it over to George to get us kickstarted here.
All right, I got 3 new releases that I've picked up lately. First one is Attila Laszlo Fusion Circus. The album is called Good Luck. It's a septet recording with an all-Hungarian cast, including a guest turn by drummer of the moment, Gergő Borlai, on the closing track. There's Vokes on one tune. Musically, I put it somewhere between Dave Weckl Band and maybe Mike Stern stuff. Maybe a little happier than that. Big horns. It's a pretty solid record. He's been around for like 3 decades, but I'm not that familiar with his stuff. I just happened to pick this one up. We also got the 4th album from Basic Streams, which is a trio, Victor Wooten, Steve Bailey, and Greg Bissonette. It's their first album in 21 years. It's a guest star fest. You got Oteil Burbridge, Marcus Miller, Ron Carter, John Patitucci, Billy Sheehan, Mike Pope, and actually Mike Stern is playing 6-string bass on a track. That's pretty nice. Yeah, I was like, huh? But yeah, that's it's, if you know the first 3 albums from them, it's pretty much in line. It might be a tad more relaxed as it comes with age. That's something they've mentioned in some press material, and that could be the case. Last one is a new guy to me, Carlo Cantini Quartet. It's called Heptagon. He's a violinist leader from Italy. The lineup is violin, bass, drums, and keys. I guess he did a record with Treelock in the 2000s, but that's about all I could find on him. I really did not find much else. This record, though, is it's quite good. At first, I thought it was digital only, but now I see there is Italian imports if you want to hunt down the hard copy. And of course, all this stuff's on YouTube, as everything is these days, so check it out.
As always, we'll have all these listed in the comments below. So if I know everybody always wants to go investigate these, as you should. So those will be listed as soon as this episode airs. So be on the lookout down below for that. So now that we got the new stuff out of the way, let's get to the meat of the episode. As everybody knows, we usually pick 4 albums that we're kind of putting up against each other, and they're generally somehow related thematically, or they may feature a same musician on all of them, or they may be debut albums or released in the same year, whatever. There's usually something that ties them together, and there's actually a very special guy that ties these 4 together. So I'll have George list these 4 tremendous albums, and they are all 4 pretty tremendous.
Yeah, this was a request from the viewers. After the first episode, we took some suggestions, and this was one that came up. It's Allan Holdsworth as Sideman. I went on Rate Your Music, and the 4 most owned records on there are as follows. Alphabetically, you got Gong, Gazus, Bruford, One of a Kind. Oops, that's a little bit out of alphabetical. Jean-Luc Ponty, Enigmatic Ocean, and Soft Machine Bundles. All 70s releases, as it turns out. So Chris, you are the guest. Why don't you kick us off? What would you rank fourth out of these four?
You know, I would have to say, and this might be controversial, so, but I know you like a good controversy on this channel. So
Sure.
I'm going to say Enigmatic Ocean as number 4. It's a great record, and it's a legendary one. It was actually one of the many channels that Allan got sort of discovered or noticed because it was an extraordinarily big album at the time. I just find the material to be not as strong in terms of the other, the company of albums in this particular ranking. Allan's playing is, it's funny. As a sideman, you can really tell where he's comfortable and where he's maybe not so comfortable. And I don't really feel him being really comfortable on this record. I think his playing is like masterful, but it's not as fire-breathing. And also, there's an interesting contrast between him and Daryl Stuermer. Now, I'm a huge Daryl Stuermer fan, but it's not a contrast that necessarily works, especially on the tunes. Many feature both of them as soloists. It's just, I don't know. It's just going to be my number 4. I mean, I enjoy the record, and as a historical document, it's fantastic. And Jesus, John Luke's playing is ridiculous on this record. I mean, he's a huge fan of him. But the guitar picture just seems a little disjointed to me, so I'm going to put this one at number 4.
All right. Eric, what do you got?
Well, we've said this on every episode, but these are killer to rank. But kind of where I go with this is maybe this band I had a bad start with. I'm going Bundles, number 4, even though it may contain with Hazard Profile that, and maybe that's what you're talking about, Chris, because to me, it's just like he just goes berserk. I mean,
yeah, it's ridiculous.
it might be the best solo of the 4, if you're going to pick some stuff out from Allan. With Soft Machine, to me, it's kind of, and again, if I'm going the wrong way, it's jammy to me. Like they kind of find a theme or a groove and they go with it. And sometimes I find kind of as great as Allan is on this record, I'm not as interested in what's going on behind what he's playing. But that's just my take on it. I know the title track Bundles, that's another one that just has a killer solo from Allan. But when I got into, not got into Soft Machine, somebody recommended Third to me when I knew nothing about Soft Machine. And to this day, I just don't like that record. And then as we started getting into this, and I'm getting, someone saying, get the Pierre Morlin Gong stuff, because I had kind of the same thing with Gong. As I started getting the Soft Machine stuff that's jazzier, I was like, doesn't even sound like the same band to me. So that's my number 4 is Bundles. But like I said, it may contain the best solo of the 4 albums from Hazard Profile.
If I could just kind of horn in here for 1 second, though. Gone Sailing. Allan Holdsworth on a 12-string
Acoustic?
guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, that in itself is a historical event because you'll never hear it again, I mean, he plays acoustic occasionally, like with UK and some of his solo stuff, but 12-string guitar, it's pretty interesting.
Agreed.
It's only a minute long, but still.
It's a great minute.
Yeah, it is.
Hey, Pete, what do you got?
I will say I love Thirds, but that seems to be like a love it or hate it album because I know people who love it even more than me, and I know people who just can't even listen to it. So you're right. I will say I'll echo Eric's statement that this was ridiculously hard because for me, there's not much that separates these 4 albums at all. But I think I have a handle on this, I guess. All 4 are great. So my number 4 is a terrific album, but something's got to come in at number 4, right? I'm going to go with Jesus. I love it. It's great. It's so percussive. It's quirky, it's jazzy, it's completely different than most of the Gong stuff that came before. Although you kind of saw their trajectory toward to this after they got past the whole teapot thing. But yeah, I mean, his guitar playing is brilliant on this. It's beautiful. I will argue that I think out of all these 4 albums, probably his most melodic solos are on this one. But I think I like the songs and the compositions a little bit more on the other 3 albums. But this is terrific. Can't say anything bad about it. You know, Pierre is such a great drummer, and there's all these kind of cool instruments on here, and it's a very different set. This is like, to me, I think of the 4 albums, this is the one that sounds the most different, the most unique. But I just like the other 3 just a tiny bit better. But this is absolutely gorgeous, and his playing is great on it. So there's a reason why these 4 albums were picked as the most owned Allan Holdsworth as sideman albums. Although I'm surprised the Lifetime album didn't come up, but I think, you know, I can kind of see it because these are higher profile, I guess. I mean, because I'd arguably pick the first Lifetime album over any of these 4, arguably, possibly. I don't know. It's close, but what a 5-pack that would be, huh?
That'd be,
if we were calling this 5Fusion Friday, but we're
me.
not. So, you know,
that one deserves an honorable mention at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's because that's amazing. It's one of my favorites with him on it. But yeah, Gassus, great album. It's number 4 for me.
My number 4, I'm also going to go with Bundles. I kind of agree with Eric in that it does feel like it's just Holdsworth jamming over a progression that doesn't change a whole lot. I actually like the Soft Machine albums around this a little better on the songwriting end. It feels like they're really putting Allan forward here. They got this new guitar player who's incredible. And they really just want to focus on him, which, yeah, I'm sure it was effective. But looking back, yeah, it's good. Of course, all these are good, but just overall, I put it a touch below the rest of them. That ending ballad, I'm not very fond of either. It kind of goes on for like 7 minutes or so, but it's just a touch below the others for me. Hey, Chris, what do you got for 3?
What are you gonna do? You know, what are you gonna do? For me, it's the next one is going to be the Gong record. The problem I have with this record is not the playing or the compositions, because I think it's wonderful. It's how Allan is mixed and the sound of his instrument. It just doesn't really come across to me. It's almost though like somebody left the fader down a few from where it should have been. And it's not like I'm necessarily straining to hear him, but his guitar tone is a bit. It's not as upfront. You know, it's certainly not as upfront as the 2 other or the 3 other albums mentioned in this group. But I will say that compositionally, it's killing. I mean, I love these guys. You know, being like one of the biggest Zappa fans in the world, I can really appreciate a band where you've got vibraphones and mallet percussion up front, and as like the impetus for a lot of the compositions. And to some degree, Bruford did that as well. I love it, you know. But I think that just the mix is it leaves a little bit to be desired. But the cool thing about this record, and I think the only record amongst these where Allan didn't write any of the music at all, was the Jean-Luc record. Am I right about that? But he's got a couple tracks on here that he wrote. It's a bit interesting that he would contribute, you know, to some of the compositions as well. But my only misgiving about this is just the mix. I mean, I would love for this record to be remixed, and with the guitar put a little bit more up front. But, you know, when you have a percussion instrument, like a melodic percussion instrument, it tends to sort of suck all of the air out because it's percussive and it's tonal. So it's, you know, it's a delicate balance to mix. But I love the record. I mean, it's been a favorite. But, you know, like, I mean, what the hell can you say about all of these records? I mean, it's just like we're splitting the tiniest hairs right now, you know. But this was number 3 would definitely be Gassus for me.
All right, Eric.
Well, I'm gonna follow Chris with that. That is my number 3 as well. And you kind of stole my thunder, Chris, because
Oh, sorry.
the whole Zappa thing, the same thing. Like all of a sudden I was like in love with vibes,
Yeah.
listening to Zappa's music and then hearing this. But then what I will say is I think that Percolations goes a little too long for me. That gets a little boring as much as I enjoy the vibes. And then you being the guitar professional, that Shadows of, I think it's a harmonizer he's using, or would they have had a, I don't care for that tone so much in the beginning of that solo, but I don't think he uses that for very long and then it kind of breaks off. And that's one of my favorite solos on the record.
Oh my goodness, yeah, and that's a Holdsworth composition as well. I think he's got 2 songs on the record.
He does, because I think I'm looking at Night Illusion is the other one, the second track. So that like Espresso kicks it off, and Night Illusion, those first 2 are killer as well. But I know you were talking about the mix, and for me, I just don't care for that harmonizer sound in chat. But thankfully, he kind of dumps that, I think, pretty quick into the solo and goes on. But again, I think that percussive feel to this band, or this record at least. And then with the vibes and everything else, I think it gives it a really unique sound. And then just putting Holdsworth on top of it is great. So again, great record. Number 3 in this grouping for me is Gong.
Pete, what you got?
Sorry, I was on mute. We have a new puppy in the house, and she's like squeaking her little toy like crazy in the next room, so I didn't want to get that on the show here. I'm gonna, man, this is so tough. I have changed my ranking so many times over the last 24 hours. I'm gonna go with One of a Kind for number 3.
Oh, wow.
And I love it. I love it. I mean, you got Holdsworth, Stewart, Berlin, and Bruford in the same band together, and magic happens. I mean, Hell's Bells is incredible. The Sahara of Snow, incredible. The title track, incredible. Forever Until Sunday, incredible. I love Holdsworth and Berlin together. I wish those guys worked together more. Holdsworth always seems to do good stuff with Bruford. Stewart's keyboards are amazing. I love this album, and thankfully there ain't no vocals on this album, which is, right there, you get lots of points.
Except for the talking. Keep the talking out of the coils.
Yeah.
At the one. Yeah. Cut that out.
Actually, I think right before the guitar solo, there's a little vocal harmony that happens. I think Jeff Berlin did that right before the guitar solo kicks off.
Right.
But that's the only thing. There's no singing, certainly no words, thank goodness.
Yeah. But, again, I'm splitting hairs with these albums. And, if we were to do this again 2 days from now, I might rank these differently. But I say this all the time. I feel like I'm a broken record, but it's like I got to a point where I'm like, I got to stop moving these albums around in this ranking and just go with whatever I'm feeling today. So I'm going to go Bruford for number 3. Tomorrow could be my number 1 or number 2, could be back to number 4. I don't know, because I love all these 4 albums. So it's really, really hard to rank them. But yeah, I'm going to go with Bruford for number 3 today.
My number 3 is also the Gong. I like the 2 Holdsworth tunes. His writing changed a lot. I mean, from the point where we are here to where it got to on his solo albums, I prefer this approach. He's more, I don't know, he's more grounded. It's less esoteric.
It's more groove oriented, right?
Yeah, I mean, it just works better for me. And the band is great. Pierre Merlin, a great drummer. I like Espresso 2 every bit as much of this, although I wish Allan was on that more. It seems like he probably was just a session guy on that one, as opposed to this one. He looks like he might have been in the band. But it's just, other than maybe the closer's kind of sedate for me, but the rest of this, excellent record, but somebody's got to finish third. Gong.
I think Allan in his solo career, he really wanted to do like jazz that was atmospheric and had a lot of breathing room. And I like a lot of his solo stuff a lot, but we've talked about this a lot here on the show and on the channel about how he always seemed to be at his absolute best when he was playing for other people for whatever reason. And, solo stuff is fine. Some of it's really great, but if, anytime I do like we're getting to a conversation where we're talking about some of my favorite Holdsworth appearances, you're never going to get any of his solo albums coming near the top. It just doesn't really work out that way. It seems like he really wanted to do it a certain way in his solo career, and there's nothing wrong with it. I love it. But he really was at his best when someone else was kind of driving the whole thing, and he just kind of came in and just kicked ass and got out of Dodge. I don't know.
That is an extremely interesting statement you just made there, Pete. And I mean, I could talk your ear off about his solo stuff all night, but I won't do that. But I think there's definitely, I can definitely sense there's sort of an abandon to his playing when he's a sideman, right? Like, he gets really in there with his solo stuff, which I absolutely adore. And actually, I'm going to say this because I'm here. I think his best solos of all time reside in his solo material. And I say that with an informed, sort of schooled ear. I've been listening to Allan. The first thing I heard was Sand. I was 13 years old, and it like blew my dick off. You know what I mean? It was like I had no idea what I was listening to or how any of this was supposed to work. It just completely just turned my life around. But anyway, separate subject. Sorry, digressing. Is it my turn? I can't remember.
Yeah, let's hear your number two.
Number two is going to be Soft Machine Bundles. I totally hear all of you about the jammy thing, but the thing about Holdsworth is that he's got such a broad harmonic vocabulary that he can just be like soloing over a one-chord vamp, but he's going to take you via arithmetic around every single key and every single scale and mode that you've ever heard before. And he does it with sort of the panache of just rolling right off the tongue. It's really fantastic. I think this record is super strong. I love how it's produced. I've always loved the production of this. It's very immediate. Everything is kind of in your face. I think has it been remixed? Or it's definitely been remastered, I think.
Yeah.
I think there's just an immediacy to the sound of it. It's a sole record he did with them, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. Yeah. And again, it features a couple of his tunes, and it features him playing 12-string guitar. And it was always a record that I was always curious about because I would always hear about Soft Machine, but I could never get my hands on a copy of it until I finally did at a used record store in Boulder, Colorado. And it, for some reason, I just really identified with it. And like his solo, man, on the Hazard Profile tune, I mean, it's ridiculous. And there's some YouTube footage of him playing with that band with his like white SG. It's just it's like hearing the voice of God, And you could tell even the cats that are playing with him are like, "Holy shit, man!" But yeah, I mean, there's just so much fire and attitude with it, and I will agree that the record can get a little static, for sure. But there's an immediacy to the production, and there's some ingenuity with the compositions in it. I think it's a real engaging listen, and actually revisiting it after so many years for this was a real pleasure for me because I remembered all the things I loved about it, and all the things that were kind of like, I do agree that some things kind of wear their welcome here and there, but the production is, it sounds like an early '70s Yes album to me in some weird ways. How it's like everything is very immediate and in your face. The guitar is unmistakable. I mean, I would love if the guitar tone from this record could be printed onto the Gong record. You know what I mean? Because it's so in your face and it's just so immediate. So yeah, Bundles is my number two.
Eric?
I'm going with Bruford as my number two. Again, unbeatable lineup. I really enjoyed going back and listening to this for the show. Got a lot more from Berlin. I don't know why that didn't register with me before, just listening, always, again, usually listening for the guitar stuff, and just Berlin seemed to kind of bubble to the top for me on a lot of these tunes. And I love Dave Stewart. I think as much as we talk about prog and keyboards and everything, Dave Stewart always seems to kind of, everyone says, yeah, he's great, but he's never a name that seems to come up all the time when you're talking about guys. And I just love his playing, wherever he's been. So, and I liked, I think Forever Until Sunday, 5G. We talked about the other ones. Sahara of Snow is great. Hell's Bells always sticks in your head. And I know that's probably the intention of putting that first song on the track. It seems like all of these hit you hard with the first track, as most albums do. And again, just fantastic playing from Holdsworth, since that's who we're focusing on. He just kills again on this record. So that's my number 2.
Pete?
I'm looking at my top 2 and I'm like, man. All right. I'm going to go with Enigmatic Ocean. And I'll tell you why. I love this album. Love it. To me, I think what really makes this album so great is it is a pure ensemble album where everybody shines. And that's the reason why it's my number 2, because this is a show where we're really talking about Holdsworth's contributions, right? And his contributions are amazing here. But I also love Sturmer's contributions here. I love Steve Smith's contribution. Everybody on this album has their moments to shine. And it's a really interesting album that takes you on a journey. And Jean-Luc is incredible on here. There's nothing bad I could say about this. It's amazing. When Holdsworth is on, he's completely on. When all the other guys are on, they're completely on. But I think my number 1, I like for the most part, purely because of what Holdsworth contributes. Whereas this, I love his stuff on here, but I love everybody on this album. This, to me, it's like everybody just absolutely nails it on here. This, I think, out of all of these albums, might be my favorite from a pure like band perspective, from everybody who's on it. Maybe the Bruford's probably kind of close. But I think as far, I wish there was more Holdsworth on here, to be honest. He's on here plenty, but I wish there was more. But you got Sturmer on here, and he's just as amazing. So I don't know. I'm going to go with this as number 2 today, but I could change my mind a half hour from now. There's nothing that separates these. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy.
And please realize, I mean, don't get me wrong. This is an extraordinarily difficult task because, I mean, I grew up with the Enigmatic Ocean suite. Like the whole thing is absolutely beautiful. I mean, all of the performances are unimpeachable compositionally, and the arrangements are fantastic. I just, for me, I'm pretty biased when it comes to Allan Holdsworth. I mean, he's such a huge part of my life, and so I look at this more as an experience of Jean-Luc Ponty rather than an Allan Holdsworth experience. Yeah. I enjoy his solos, but I think that Jean-Luc's whole compositional prowess and like his vision really comes across on here in ways that sort of eclipse, other recordings where Allan had more of a, he had more skin in the game, where he like wrote compositions for the records, so forth. I mean, his playing is fucking ridiculous on the record. And Daryl Sturmer, man, I mean, that dude, and he was just some like humble everyday guy from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And it's like, but he's a fire breather on here, and it's cool to contrast the two. But I just kind of, I don't know, as a sideman thing, this is more of a Jean-Luc experience for me. Like it just seems that like Allan was like, okay, this is your moment to blow, and he does, and look out, and But yeah, I mean, I'll agree with you, Pete. I mean, it's a masterwork. I mean, all of these records are really, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, so right on. No, sorry, I didn't mean to take all the oxygen there, but
Not at all. I think you
Okay.
kind of echoed my statement. So yeah.
right on.
These top two was very hard for me. I'm gonna go with One of a Kind. These two are just so evenly matched. Another Allan composition here, the Abingdon Chas, but I think I like it better than the two Gong tunes. I really like this song. But I like all these songs. Fainting in Clothes is my favorite. I know it's a lot of people's favorite. It's definitely mine. The title track, Hell's Bells, Total Earworm, Sahara of Snow, two-part epic. I mean, it's just great all the way through. It's just a shame. I like to have been in the room when they decided that the next album was going to have Berlin singing on most of it. I'm not sure what the mindset was. I guess you'd have to think commercialism, but
Yeah, if you look at
How?
the year it came out, I mean, that explains it right there.
yeah, I just was it really a good commercial move? I don't think so, but I wasn't around then, so
How is the sliding floor ever going to make it on the radio? How is that ever going to happen?
it's his vocals are too odd to ever make a foothold with anybody that wants commercial rock. So I don't get it. I wish there was another one of these, but I don't know that Allan would have stayed anyway. So it's my number two, Bruford. Chris, your number one, I think we know.
Okay, this is my number one for many reasons. It is one of a kind. I got this record when I was in high school, and it actually stimulated my imagination in very real ways. The album means a lot to me. I mean, I grew up with Yes. I was like 10 years old when I heard the Yes album. I knew who all these people were. I knew who Bruford was. I knew the characteristics of his snare drum and how he played. And, you know, a friend of mine put it really well. Like, you know, his snare drum was on the beat and his bass drum was just a tad behind the beat, you know. He had this real, I don't know, just really beautiful way of asserting himself as a drummer. And this record compositionally, I mean, I did a record. I was invited. There's a thing in Chicago called Progtoberfest, which is a big prog festival. I don't know if it's happening anymore, George. I haven't heard anything about it, but
Doesn't seem like it.
But you know, people like Mike Keneally and you know Chester Thompson's band and all these wonderful people would come. Well, I was invited by the folks from District 97 to perform One of a Kind in its entirety. So I actually got inside a lot of these tunes because I had to learn them. And I didn't have to use any charts. I didn't have to make any notes. I've been listening to this since I was in high school. And I just love this record. You know, it has all the hallmarks of a classic fusion album. Hell's Bells, the one of the kind suite, I guess. Sahara of Snow suite. Fainting in Coils, 5G, the Abingdon Chas. It just doesn't really get any better for me. But I will say this. I think Allan's playing is a lot more adventurous and dynamic and just sort of like off the chain on Feels Good to Me, Bruford's debut record. Because he was just like, I don't know. I mean, I knew Allan a bit. I mean, he would come to town with his band, and I would sit in on his sound checks, and I'd have a drink with him at the bar. Allan was a drinker, and a beautiful, humble cat. But around this time is when he started to get really impatient with his own career, because he had realized he'd been like a sideman to the Stars, and he wanted to do his own thing. And I think that Bruford was the last band he left before he formed IOU. And so I think a lot of that frustration in his mind was apparent on this record because he made this record, but I don't think he actually toured with this record.
Oh.
They brought in that other cat whose name escapes me. I'm sorry. Was it Bill Connors, maybe?
No.
The unknown something or other.
John Clark.
John Clark, I'm sorry. Bill Connors was Return to Forever. But yeah, man, I think his playing was, you know, just really appropriate for the compositions, but it seemed to me that he was getting a little impatient with being a sideman on this record. However, his solo to Hell's Bells, man, just comes in like somebody just kicking down a door, you know? It's just so attitudinal. I don't know how other way to describe it. And it's cool that he had a composition on this record as well. His tone was killing. I mean, he was playing a Strat by this, like a Strat with 2 humbuckers on it. It was completely, you know, after years of hearing him on an SG, it's just a different thing, man. And I don't know. I have a lot of affection for this record, and having performed it and gotten inside the music, so to speak, because I tried to nail sort of the hallmarks of some of his solos. Like, there's no way I can even approach playing anywhere near what he did. But there were certain little melodic things that I would kind of latch on to and that I wanted to kind of keep honest. And just in learning those things, really kind of getting inside them, it's genius, man. And Dave Stewart's playing is atmospheric and it's beautiful. I don't think he gets any credit for what, you know, I would say, like, he's beyond underrated. He's like not even rated, which is a real shame because, you know, he can play all the stuff. Compositionally, and his sounds and his concept is fantastic, and his solos were incredible. But, you know, it was truly a band. Are you guys hip to that Rock Goes to College DVD that came out, the Bruford thing, where it's live and they do? Annette Peacock comes around and twirls around the stage and sings her odd songs or whatever. but like, I mean, that is I don't know. I mean, and being a huge Bruford fan, I mean, like, this is definitely my number one, man. I mean, like, this, I knew it as soon as I was asked to do this, and it was as soon as this was introduced, like, which records, this was definitely number one by default, you know. And I'm actually kind of glad that maybe I'm the only one that has the number one designation for this, because it makes everything else balance out. But these are all amazing records. I mean, these are instructive records to me, you know, like, not only in the genre, but like as a guitar player, to approach Allan as a guitar player is terrifying. It's just terrifying. I mean, Pete, you play. We're all like familiar with like maybe what it takes to put flesh to a guitar string, but when you realize the brain power that went into this stuff, and it just seems like it's just second. It's just like as easy. Yeah, it's like I'm having a conversation with y'all, and that's what he's doing. But he's doing it so eloquently, and it's just like off the cuff. And I will say, as a sideman, and I will agree with Pete here, big time. As a sideman, he has got more of a sense of abandon in his playing that doesn't exist in his solo stuff. He really got in deep with his solo stuff, and he went down corridors that, you know, I think it's going to take the world several decades to catch up to where he was going. But when he was, you know, he was kind of getting passed around, you know, a little bit. All the bands he was in the 70s, you know, Tempest and Tony Williams' Lifetime and, you know, millions of other things. UK is a great, I mean, Pete, I've heard your thoughts on the UK debut, and I got to say, man, we're right here, brother. It's
amazing on that album. I mean, it's like, to me, when he left that band, I like the second UK album, but to me, it doesn't even hold a candle.
Right on, brother. I'm right there, right there with you. But yeah, one of a kind, definitely. But obviously, you know, when you have a record that in high school was a big record, you know, other people were listening to Bon Jovi and shit. I was listening to Bill Bruford, one of a kind, you know. So that was the kind of cat I was in high school. But yeah, it's just got so much. It just pulls on my heartstrings, and I love the one of a kind suite. I love that Bruford plays mallets on this, and you know, it's a tour de force for sure. Jeff Berlin, whatever. Yeah. I mean, I've met Jeff several times. He's a crazy dude. I love him to death. His playing. This was the first band. This was his first band. You know, his first real band, and. It's terrifying what he does on this record. It's terrifying. So anyway, Sorry to suck all the oxygen out, but one of a kind. Bill Bruford's my number one. Absolutely.
Eric?
Well, first, Chris, I'm going to say at least you're a guitar player that can attempt to play Holdsworth. Mine goes back in the case. It doesn't get attempted.
I've never attempted.
And my number one, I kind of have the same feeling you have for the Bruford, because I'm going with Jean-Luc Ponty, and I think this is the one I've been most familiar with. I've had this for years. The other ones I've been getting into fusion over the last few years. So these other ones I have not. I've had the Bruford for a while. This has been the one I've had the longest. And I think if it was Pete, and it might have been you, Chris, as well, I think what gets me with this one is I enjoy, and it's probably going against the theme of the show, I enjoy hearing Sturmer and then hearing Holdsworth and just hearing the difference in what they do. And I think that's like that part two where Zavad and Ponty and Holdsworth and Sturmer all take a turn in a solo. And it's just, to me, that just blows my mind. I'm like, here we go, let's lay it down. And each one of them gets a turn, and that just kills me. And as contrasting as their styles are, I liked hearing them both on that tune and on that record. That got me off just hearing. I could listen to that on repeat for hours. Nostalgic Lady, I think, is the other one that I really enjoy Holdsworth's playing on.
That shit is ridiculous.
Yep.
That's just stupid.
It is. And I think, Pete mentioned it, and you guys have all mentioned it. I think, to me, just these songs, and again, it could be the familiarity that I have with the record, they just stick with me. I mean, this is the one that I'm going to grab of the four. And again, we're talking about records we all really love, but this is just a go-to for me. This is a 5-star classic. And that's my number one.
Well, I'm kind of glad that I'm the only one who picked Bundles as number one. Out of, again, I love all four of these, but this is the one where when I listen to this album, every time that guy starts playing, I'm like, what? And when you see that live clip from whatever year this was, 1975.
Yeah, I think they recorded in 74.
Hazard Profile on stage, man. It takes the studio version to the next level. And he's there on that white SG, just, what is that solo, like 4 or 5 minutes long? It just never ends. And you don't want it to end. And it's, I mean, I've always been a Soft Machine fan, so I like the band anyway, even without Allan. But I really love the direction they started on with this album, and then they would continue on for a couple albums afterwards. But I think his playing just gave a new dimension to this band. I love Mike Ratledge's organ tone, and he's a tremendous player. You got Carl Jenkins as reeds. The whole band is great, but man, to me, this is the album that has the most wow factor Allan Holdsworth playing on it for me. I like this. I like the tunes on here as well. I think if we were to look at a couple of the other, like I think the Jean-Luc Ponty and the Bruford, maybe start to finish, are a little stronger than this album. But this album for me has those handful of tracks that just melt my fucking face off. And that's what Allan Holdsworth does to me when he's completely on, and he's completely on pretty much all the time anyway, right? So so I'm going to go with Bundles today for number one. I love this album. I think his playing on here is probably some of the best playing, or my favorite playing from Holdsworth on any album he ever appeared on. So
I agree.
For those that don't know, the Montreux performance that's been referenced a couple of times is out on DVD now. So
it is the whole thing.
Yep. The whole thing is touched up. Very nice. The double disc with the audio. Really nice.
I shall have to purchase that.
Well, my number one is Enigmatic Ocean. And like it's been said a couple times, I think this is the Heartstrings one. This is one of the first albums that I got introduced to, brought into the fold with Fusion. I started out with the RTF stuff and the solo albums of that. And this was probably maybe the next thing that someone wanted to show me. And because of Holdsworth and Steve Smith. They knew I liked Steve Smith, and yeah, from minute one, I was just completely entranced by this album. The title track would make any short list of 70s fusion that I would make. I mean, it's just an incredible track all the way through. And Struggle of the Turtle of the Sea also, it's another one. Just always loved the part from the Ralph Armstrong solo into the Steve Smith breaks. That part's just, I agree with you guys that it's more ensemble than Holdsworth Showcase, and maybe that's why, you know, it sticks in my head more. But yeah, it's just, again, like, I wish that they had toured this with Holdsworth, but
Oh my goodness.
yeah, I've looked for years. There's no boots out there. I look like crazy and I never find one. But I did see an interview with Sturmer where he claims he played live with Holdsworth. I don't know how many times or what tour, but he
I
claims
think I
it's
saw
happened.
the same one. He has some interesting things to say about the record as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. But yeah, for me, I was pretty sure this was going to be number one when I put it together, but I wasn't positive because I do love the Bruford. But yeah, in the end, it's heartstrings for this one. Enigmatic Ocean.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why that album is so beloved by so many people. It's, I think, and we've talked about all the reasons. It's because it is such an album full of just superstar players, and the arranging, the songwriting is just brilliant. I mean, the album flows really, really well.
Yeah.
So well, and everybody gets to shine on it. I mean,
And it's just such a it's a who's who, for Christ's sake. I mean, Steve Smith, Allan Zavad. Like, I know Allan from the '84 Zappa bands, you know, and obviously Jean-Luc Ponty did the record, plays the music of Frank Zappa. He was in the Mothers in 1973 and whatnot. There's just everything is just so intertwined. And Daryl Sturmer, you know, in the context of you know, you really, if you hear his playing in Genesis, you know this guy's a fire breather who's just being held at the gate, like the gate is closed, and he's just like, shit.
he's collecting a paycheck.
Yeah, well, for sure. But like, I mean, yeah, his playing is absolutely killing. I mean, I can appreciate the feature of both of them, but the only criticism I have on the record, like, and by no means is my fourth rating indicative of like where it actually. I mean, ratings is just a difficult thing, but you know, I just feel like the contrast in the same tunes with the two guitars. I would almost rather have it be one feature per tune, but that's just me, you know. But everybody's playing is killing. The writing is absolutely unbelievable, and Jean-Luc's playing is, I mean, the guy's an alien, man. I mean, it's ridiculous.
So let's take a quick poll. If the Williams was in it, where do you think you'd put it? Really?
Tony Williams' Lifetime?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I put it third.
You'd put it third?
I think so.
I might put it one as well.
Ooh.
Yeah, I you know what? The Tony Williams album for me has what I don't think these other four have a lot of, and it's absolutely tremendous groove.
Yeah.
I mean, man, it just, I mean, I still say the best soloing from Allan is on Bundles, but man, some of those songs on the Tony Williams album are just tremendous, and they just never-ending groove. He's got this rock, you know, that's the one thing, because Chris mentioned the difference between Sturmer and Holdsworth on Enigmatic Ocean, and that's it right there. You got Holdsworth doing these kind of floating, lyrical, ethereal solos, and you got Sturmer doing all the rock-based stuff.
Yeah.
Well, on the Lifetime album, Holdsworth doing some serious rock shit on that album.
My God.
Yeah.
Red Alert, dude. I mean, I
Yeah.
like, you know, I actually talked to Allan about this. There's a club in Martyrs. He was playing here. I think it was with Ernest Tibbs and Chad Wackerman. Martyrs is a great club in Chicago. Ray Quinn. But I was talking to him about this, and he's like, you know what that album represents to me? Because I asked him about it. I'm like, Tony Williams, you know, believe it. What do you got? He's like, that record for me was, holy shit, I'm playing with Tony Williams. You know what I mean? Like, Tony Williams was a huge hero of Allan's, you know. Allan was a huge fan of the Miles Davis, the 60s quintet. He was gigantic Coltrane fan, and just the chance to play with Tony Williams and actually be in his band. I mean, you can hear, and the fact that he had some skin in the game. He had a couple compositions on that record. Fred, obviously, which is a standard. I mean, I've played it a million times. I love that tune. But yeah, that's what he said. He's like, what that record is holy shit, I'm playing Tony Williams. It's great. And it sounds like that to me. I mean, his playing is just, it's got a different thing. It's got a different tilt to it to me. So yeah, I would put that as number one if it were in the ranking.
A lot of people may not know that's how he got the Ponty job, because Ponty heard the Tony Williams and he's like, I got to get that guy. And he called Tony Williams.
I'm sure he got a lot of phone calls.
Yeah.
What about you, Eric? You got that one?
You know what? I've got it. I think I'd line up with you. We've lined up all night. I think I would put it above Gong and Soft Machine, but I don't know if I'm putting it above Bruford and Jean-Luc. So it'd be 3 or 2 for me. It might sneak Bruford, but it's not. Jean-Luc is here for me. So
now I feel really bad about rating that 1/4.
Chris, we do this every show.
No, I get
every
it.
show, and we're all like,
I dig it. You know, I've watched lots of Pete's shows on his ranking of records. Like, you know, I really enjoyed your Blue Oyster Cult one. Like, Buck Dharma's a motherfucker, man. He's one of my
He is, yep.
but I really enjoyed your ranking of those records, because at a certain point, you know, the first 7 or 8 records are like, I don't even know what to fucking say about it. I mean, like, these are all brilliant albums, and it's the same thing here. It's the compositionally, there's just so much thought and care and innovation going on here with all of these records. You know, each of these composers, you know, they take their business seriously, and like everybody was coming and bringing something to it. Allan brought his own thing. It's really interesting to hear Allan across all of these records too, because he's a different guy. He's a different guy on the Gong record than he is on the Bruford record, and he's a different guy on the Jean-Luc record than like on the Tony Williams record, you know, or like go back to Tempest and stuff like that.
Right.
It's just a different shine to what he does. It's the same person.
Yeah, you know it's him, but he's giving you a different side of himself on every album, right? Same thing with the UK album.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
And they're all like a 4-year span.
Yeah.
That's the thing that makes me sad, because it's like in 4 years that dude had the career that I've spent 30 years building, you know. It's like amazing. Like, you know, within 4 years, I don't know. It's ridiculous. I would love to see a ranking of the Holdsworth solo records. Is that something that you'd be into, Pete, or have you done that? I'm not. Have you done that?
I think we did that already. Actually,
did you?
Top
5. I'll have to
top
go
5 or something. Yeah.
I'll have to go. I'll have to look for it. Yeah, I haven't seen that. I'll check it out tonight.
All right. Well, time for George's pick. I gave these boys last month. I didn't have another Holdsworth as sideman, but I had a Holdsworth as guest record. It's David Hines, Nebula. It's a Massachusetts-based bass player. 3 albums. This is the debut. What'd you think, Eric?
well, what is it with you and bass players? You've got Molinari, you have Lafoco, and now we get this. So I did go and listen. I think Allan's on 2 tracks. I know he's on the opener. Is it the opener and the closer that he plays on?
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, right out of the gate, I'm listening to this and thank you for smacking me in the face, you know, with the first song. Skippy, is it?
Yeah.
But then as I'm listening to the record, and I know this is like the Steve's record, right? It's Steve Hunt. I can't say the drummer. Is it McCoud?
Probably.
And then Steve Kirby, I think, is the guitar player.
Yep.
He's fantastic.
Yeah, he's really good.
So, I mean, obviously the Holdsworth hits you first, and then as I'm listening to the record, I hadn't gotten the CD yet, George. I know we've had the back and forth, so I was waiting for that, but I was listening to it on Apple Music, and I'm like, I love this Steve Kirby guy. He's fantastic. And then obviously Hines is a great player. I really like the record. The only thing, and don't make fun of me, I'm just saying, I've been listening to the Sharinian stuff so much, the keyboards were sometimes a little light. Like I wanted a little more punch from the keyboards. But, and that's not a bad thing. I really did enjoy this record. But that's the only thing. And I don't know if it's like I said, because I've been listening to the Sharanian catalog lately, and we've talked about how Derek's sounds are just massive. That was about the only thing that I picked up that I might be a little picky with on this record, but I think it's fantastic. I loved it. Like I said, having Holdsworth on 2 tunes was great. I really enjoyed Steve Kirby's playing on this, and the rest of the guys just kill it too. It's really an excellent album.
What do you think, Pete?
I would agree. I really enjoyed it a lot. And the funny thing is, if you take Holdsworth off this album, it doesn't skip a beat because the rest of the album is really, really strong. And it's very melodic, but like it's not too melodic where it moves into like the smooth fusion category. It's classy. It's the songs are memorable. The playing is great. I agree that Steve Kirby guy is absolutely terrific. I mean, that song Nero Man, he kills on that. Really good. I mean, I would kind of agree with Eric a little bit. The keyboards are not overly aggressive, but I don't think that really was the purpose here. I think these guys just work really well together, and he's a terrific bass player.
Yep.
I mean, this guy's got some monster chops. He doesn't show off. He plays for the song, but he drops in some solos every so often. And when Allan comes in on Skippy and Antilla, I mean, he does what Allan Holdsworth does best, and he just kind of, here I am, let me wow you for a few bars, and then we'll see at the end of the album. And that's Holdsworth, and I think it's really good. I was very surprised. I enjoyed this quite a bit. And I mean, I shouldn't be surprised because George knows good bass players and good fusion albums. But yeah, this is really good. I enjoyed it.
And George, is it the same guys on his other releases? Is this a band or is it different?
It's a different guitar player on the second one, and the third one is all different guys. You got Dave Fushinsky on guitar, was a big contrast from anybody.
Oh yeah,
but especially the guitar playing on the first 2 albums, and more piano on that album. Third one's a bit different than the first 2, but all 3 good. What do you think, Chris?
I'm gonna agree with all of you. I mean, Allan being on the record is almost incidental.
Yeah,
it's a strong record. And Steve Kirby's a motherfucker, man. I mean, like, it holds together with or without Allan. I mean, I'll always listen to Allan play a guitar solo, no question about it. But I don't think that he necessarily needed to be on the album to give it any legitimacy. Just put it that way. Because a lot of times that's the case. It's like, here's the big marquee person, but it's like, well, the band's really good. Bass playing is fucking ridiculous, Yeah. I dug it. It was kind of hard to find, but but I dug it. It was, it's just like, for me, having playing this, it's funny. You guys are familiar with, a couple other sort of honorable mentions, maybe the MVP project with Frank Gambale and Allan Holdsworth. That's a very interesting record. Very interesting. Chad Wackerman's first couple of records.
Those are good.
40 Reasons and The View. It's a sort of thing with, like, it's not unlike The View, where Allan's on the record. He's on about maybe half of it or a third of it. And then Carl Verheyen is the other cat on there. And Carl's a badass, man. So it's sort of like, I'll always listen to an Allan solo, but, there's just so much more to discover too. I mean, it kind of leads you down these roads like, oh wow, I'm going to check these guys out. I mean, my entry was like, Allan's on it, but yeah, these guys are great. Let's check them out.
I'm sure it was meant to do that. I mean, it's good to put in the press material that Allan Holdsworth's on it.
For sure, yeah.
But that's what I like about all this. It's all these tentacles. Like now I got these names, and it's like, oh, maybe I can find something else with Kirby on it, or maybe you're getting these guys who.
He's got some solo records. He's got some. Steve Kirby's got some solo shit. I think it's like, it's pretty obscure. I think it's like mail order type of stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty thick. It's pretty cool.
Cool.
Well, while we got you here, I wanted to ask you a couple questions. I'm noticing that the Gurgle Live is not on the Bandcamp yet. A couple people in the comments were trying to hunt that down. Do you know anything about that?
Well, we have doing this kind of music at this stage in the game, and I mean, like, you know, the 21st century. It's very challenging. So platforms, when you do, we went with DistroKid, which is a digital distribution company, and they hit like Spotify and Apple Music and all like the main platforms. But Bandcamp is a very sort of almost homegrown ma and pa sort of thing. Like, if you want to have your music on there, you got to put it on there. You actually load it on there and you do the whole thing. So we are actually going to, but it's not up there yet.
Okay.
But we are actually gonna upload the album to that, and I'm really pleased with how it turned out. Actually, it's pretty cool. It's
Awesome.
you know, it's us playing to no one because it was over the COVID thing and there were restrictions, but it is a representation of what we sound like live, even though we're playing to, we streamed the show, so arguably people tuned in and watched it, but there was no one in the actual club when we did it. So we probably played, you know, a bit more reservedly because there was no audience to get any energy from.
Yeah.
But it was still cool. You know, we were still trying to figure out if we could play these tunes live by that point anyway. So it's a good document for that sort of thing.
You guys didn't stretch as much as you might down the road, or
But certainly nothing near to what we're doing now, which is like, you know, the tunes are basically an outline, and, you know, where they go is anybody's guess, which is kind of where we want to have it. And when we write the tunes with that in mind, because, you know, you play the same material over and over, and it's got to be something different all the time, or otherwise it's you go crazy, you know. So yeah, we try to shake it up a bit. But yeah, it will be on Bandcamp. I don't know when, but soon. I think before the tour that we do in October, it will be up.
Some might not know, all the locals here know that you also play in a band called the Renegades. It's been mostly inactive, but I did catch you guys when you opened for Gambali at Reggie's.
That was fun. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, is there any way to convince Paul to do another record?
Well, there is. I mean, I can't answer that. You'd have to ask him, but I would love to. You know, I mean, that music is. I mean, Kick the Cat music is tricky. Paul's stuff is stupid. I mean, it's almost like, you know, you have a composition where everything, you know, the downbeat is one, and then there's the tune. But Paul's tunes are like, the downbeat is the of one. You know, it's the last 16th note of one, and that's the downbeat. And then everything is moved over. It's ridiculous. Like this, like the syncopations are ridiculous. The compositions are ridiculous. I think Paul, there's a great band I'm in with him called The Unknown New. We have 4 records, and that's more like more of a gentler jazz-ish folky thing. And I actually play a lot of lap steel in that, along with guitar. And there's 2 other amazing guitar players in the band, Mike Pinto and Jim Tastian. But the music is a bit gentler. I would love to do another Renegades record, though. I mean, while I can still kind of play this shit, I want to do as much of it as I can.
That was the first time I had heard you guys with Tim, and it just the lineup was powerful.
Yeah, Tim Sicer, he's in District 97, and he was the honorary Jeff Berlin when we did the Proctoberfest thing, and there's some audio evidence of that. District 97 has a record called Screenplay. It's a double live record, and there's a couple of tunes from that night. I can't remember which ones. I think there may be Fainting in Coils was one of them. But then, like, there was a fans-only release where they did the whole thing, and so it's out there somewhere.
Yeah, I was going to say they put it out complete because I got the files.
Yeah.
All right, well, we have a George's pick for next month that the boys here have to get their hands on. A band called Tri-Offensive, 2009. And the theme of that will become apparent next month.
Cool.
Tri-Offensive.
I did want to tell you, I will see you in Albany, October 7th, I believe. I know you guys are touring.
Yeah, we're going out. Yeah, that's our third gig on the run. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking forward to that. Can't wait.
Our buddy Anthony's going to get you in somewhere in Pennsylvania on the 15th.
Yeah, I wish I had my schedule, but kickthecatmusic.com, Facebook. We're very discoverable. But yeah, I would love, I mean, there's been, I don't know what it is. There seems to be sort of I dare not say resurgence, but I think that people are interested in fusion again. Like a page has been turned and people are sort of rediscovering things. I mean, I teach at a university here in Chicago, Elmhurst University, and kids are coming in thinking like, do you know about the Black Market record, that Weather Report? Like, yes, I know about Black Market. But it's kind of cool. But these people are 18, 19 years old, and they're checking this shit out, and it's wonderful because it's, it's where that's the wellspring from where we all came from, basically. So it's really cool to know that there's still some interest out there in this sort of thing, And Allan Holdsworth, like, we did a benefit for him, for his family after he died, because Allan he died sort of on the rocks a bit, and I got to know his daughter Louise pretty well, and we did a benefit for him here, and it was like Fareed Haag and all these beautiful local musicians, guitar players, fantastic, and it's just wonderful that people are starting to acknowledge, starting to come around to wow, because there's really nothing. There's a lot of forward-thinking music going on out there at fusion, especially progressive rock. I think has had like, if progressive rock has 9 lives, it's on like its 6th life right now. I mean, all of a sudden, it's, if Porcupine Tree is back together, some shit is happening. So there's renewed interest and new ears are on it, and it's a wonderful thing, for sure. But we're really excited to be a part of it. However long it lasts, God knows. But we're really having a great time doing it, and we really appreciate the love from this channel. Like I said, this channel has been really important to me because basically every topic, I'm just like, oh my goodness, there's a channel devoted to my dreams, And Pete, once more, man, the BOC ranking thing. That's some solid gold shit. Thank you for that, because I think Buck Dharma is one of the most underrated guitar players in the universe. I mean, and that band, just as a band, is amazing. Just everything they did, like their entire career in the '70s, is unimpeachable to me. Everything they did was amazing. So thank you.
They're still knocking it out of the park today. So.
They are. They sound great. They sound amazing. Yep. So yeah. So right on, dude. BOC.
Very cool. So I guess that wraps up another episode of 4Fusion Friday. So for those of you watching at home, let's see you rank these 4 albums, right? Bundles, yeah. Enigmatic Ocean, One of a Kind, and Gassus. Let us know what you think of those 4 and how you rank them, and also give this wonderful album a listen. And go check out George's picks as well, because you got lots of homework, and then right there you go. So we got some new releases coming out. We got George's pick for next month, and next month we will have 4 other albums that we will be talking about. So tune in then, and while you're waiting, visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, all together, all the damn time. Make sure you go out and check out Kick the Cat on their tour, which is coming up in just a few short weeks, and you can see Chris and the rest of the guys laying down some serious tunes, and what a wonderful band. So if you haven't listened to Kick the Cat and you are at all interested in fusion, man, go listen to them. They are absolutely incredible. So,
Kick is the name of the cat, so everybody knows. It's not, we don't kick cats. We write songs about them.
There you go.
So yeah, it's like that, it's tricky out there these days, but yeah, Kick is the name of the cat.
So thanks for watching, everybody. See you next month on another episode of 4Fusion Friday for our special guest Chris Siebold, Eric Porter, and George Lamie. I am Pete Pardo. Good night, everybody. Actually, I shouldn't say good night because it's in the morning. Good morning, good afternoon.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Enjoy the rest of your weekend. It's been a long day, and we'll see you soon here on the channel. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.